All right, guys. Fulu coming to you with another Guerrilla boxing video. I just kind of wanted to, again touch on some interesting comments that Dmitry Bivol made, and also I wanted to touch on, this magazine, this online magazine. Whoever this publisher is, or whoever this writer is, shout outs to him. Really shout outs to him for just telling the truth of the matter. Definitely. So let's get into it. Uh, it says Dimitri Bivol ready to school Gilberto Ramirez after beating Canelo. Dimitri Bivol is ready to give Gilberto Zordo Ramirez a boxing lesson on November 5th after doing a job on the popular Canelo Alvarez last May. Canelo says he wants a rematch with Bivol to try to avenge his defeat, but with him actively rooting for Zurdo Ramirez to beat him, he betrays his true thoughts about a second fight. Additionally, Canelo saying he won't fight Bivol again if he loses to Ramirez is the clincher to indicate that he doesn't want a second schooling from him. For Canelo once was more than enough. Now, my thing is this. I mean, if if the unlikely were to happen and that Bivol would lose to Ramirez, why wouldn't he want a rematch when it would mean he would have two L's on his record, right? And then Bivol will have one L on his record. So what's wrong with a rematch? So Bivol will defend his WBA light heavyweight title against his mandatory Ramirez on the zone in the Etihad Arena in Abu Dhabi. Ramirez 31 doesn't have much to offer in this fight regarding personality, charisma, speed, movement, or boxing ability, which I completely agree. And this dude had the nerve the audacity to say that he is the best 175 pounder and that Beterbiev is such and such and such and such. But, Beterbiev would stop dude, because he would be right there in front of him. Beterbiev would use angles. What people don't know about Beterbiev is because they just look at the knockouts is that dude actually switches. He can go from orthodox to southpaw to get his stuff off, right? So the article then goes on to say what he does have is cruiserweight size, which may help him in the first few rounds before he fades due to the massive amount of water weight that he'll be shedding in making the 175 limit the day before the fight. Also, Ramirez is sacrificing a lot of muscle and trimming down in weight because he looks considerably lighter now that he did during the kickoff press conference. And that, and I've been saying that, like, when you watch Zurdo Ramirez fights, he's like way bigger than these dudes. Like when you watch him fight against Barrera, you saw that he was bigger. When you watch him fight against that other Cuban guy who he just fought, he was just super big. And it just goes to show you, like, dude should not even be fighting at cruiserweight. Just like Sebastian Fedor should be fighting at least at super middleweight, right? So instead of Ramirez fighting at cruiserweight, being overlooked by fans, he's melting down to fight down to 175. When a fighter like Ramirez fights out of his natural weight class, it takes a lot out of them. Ramirez should arguably be at cruiserweight, but that division is a dead one, with no fan interest to speak of, and that's true. Nobody's really checking for cruiserweight, bro. I'm just gonna keep it a buck. Like nobody's really looking at cruiserweight like the glamour division. That's a fact. Then he'll likely rehydrate to over 200 pounds on fight night on the fight as he did in his last contest against German fighter Dominic Bozell last May. And the crazy thing about that is that Eddie Hearn was saying that Bivol was gonna hydrate to like like 200 pounds in the Canelo fight, 180, 190. And the truth of the matter is Bivol did not really hydrate that high. I think really the Canelo Bivol fight was about challenge of the weight. But Dimitri is a man that has been talked about in boxing for a long time as someone that has ability well beyond the opposition he's faced, said Eddie Hearn, discussing Dimitri Bivol's upset win over Canelo Alvarez, which I don't think was an upset win. I always had Dimitri Bivol boxing circles around that dude. As a matter of fact, there is a comment on YouTube that I have left that was 2 years ago that aged like fine wine. All right, saying that this was going to happen. I kid you not. There was always a danger in that fight that this guy was really good. This guy was not just a world champion. This guy was the best in the division. This guy was a pound for pound great, and he went on to prove it on Cinco de Mayo by beating Canelo. I think Canelo Alvarez, I'm sure he had his problems in camp, and people do. I think that what we saw was a pound for pound great in Dimitri Bivol. He was just too big, too strong, and maybe too good on the night for Canelo Alvarez. But let's ask ourselves this question. Did Bivol really use physicality in that fight? Or did Bivol use an educated jab with subtle footwork in the fight? There was a lot of people in boxing that it didn't surprise, me being one of them, but it probably did surprise Team Canelo. I think the atmosphere when people realized that Canelo Alvarez was in a real fight, it was bubbly. Then, as the fight progressed, Dimitri Bivol began to run away from the fight. It was depressing for the Mexican fans. Dimitri silenced them and used his size and skills to win rounds and dominate the fight against Canelo Alvarez. Eddie Hearn will never give Dimitri Bivol his full credit for doing what he did. We have to just accept that. Dimitri Bivol, after the fight, it really says, this didn't surprise me. Ice running through this man's veins. I don't think his pulse ever really changes. He's ice cold. This is one thing that I can appreciate about these fighters, like the Dimitri Bivols, the Beterbievs, the David Morrells, and the Duran Ennises. They always have that stoicism. He's a dangerous man, and when he's ready for all comers. I think what Dimitri Bivol proved that night is not only is he a pound for pound great, but in my opinion, he's the number one 175 pounder in the world. Of course, he wants to be undisputed and fight against Arthur Beterbiev, but right now he faces arguably one of the toughest tests in his career in Zurdo Ramirez, a true 175 pounder. He's a former super middleweight champion, undefeated as well, and he wants to create his own legacy in the sport and be pound for pound great in Dimitri Bivol. It's interesting, on one hand, Canelo Alvarez wants Zurdo to win for Mexico. On the other hand, he wants Bivol to win so he can get his hands on him for the rematch, which I believe is capped. Bivol must win to get that Canelo Alvarez rematch. He does not want to fight Canelo Alvarez again. We're going to get to that in just a minute. Maybe Bivol wants to go on a fight for undisputed as well, but Zurdo may be looking for a victory to push his narrative for a Canelo fight. There's so much in place on so many levels. I think this is the perfect fight to kick off the championship series. A true epic matchup at 175 pounds, a pound for pound great in Dimitri Bivol against a fantastic undefeated fighter in Zurdo Ramirez. Such an important fight for the division. Such an important fight for boxing. A huge undercard with plenty of world championship action. Like I said, a perfect way to kick off the division, to kick off the Champion Series in Abu Dhabi. Hearn said about Bivol Ramirez fight. Now let's see what Bivol said. So Bivol said that he's not interested in fighting Canelo again. And that Bivol is essentially saving Canelo's career by saying he's not interested in fighting him again because we know what would happen if they fought a rematch. Bivol will school Canelo from A to B and make him look bad once again. And he would do it once worse at 168 because he'll realize, okay, I'm not defending the titles. I'm actually having to take the titles. So with that being said, there would be more urgency on Bivol's part to actually be like, man, I got to take it to this guy, right? So that's one thing that we have to keep in mind when looking at a rematch with Bivol and Canelo, if it is at 168. It's questionable whether Canelo even wants a rematch with Bivol after the way that he was dominated last May in a fight that was much more one-sided than the narrow set of scores handed in by the three judges. And that's one thing that Bivol's management was saying about that. They said, hey, you know, this guy worked all his life, sacrificed these things, and these judges were literally going to take away the work that this guy did all his life. And I'm sorry to say it, you can only give Canelo maybe 2 rounds at most. And you saw how these judges were trying to literally take this fight from Dimitri Bivol. So Bivol wants to look forward and does not look backwards. Does not like to look backwards. He'd rather take his career and his life forward to accomplish new achievements, such as becoming the undisputed light heavyweight champion by defeating IBF, WBC, WBO, 175 pound champion Arthur Beterbiev. Fighting Canelo again wouldn't be sporting for Bivol because it was too easy last time. Bivol admitted yesterday that Canelo wasn't the toughest opponent he's faced in his career. Bivol appeared to have much harder fights against Craig Richards, Jean Pascal, and Joe Smith Jr. I would even argue that the fight that Bivol had with Umar Salimov was more difficult than the fight that he had with Canelo. Umar Salimov was like tall, strong, kind of lanky, and even, you know, Bivol's face was lightweight, marked up after that fight. Bivol said that, you know, he wants a rematch. It's not a surprise to me because he's champion. Said WBA light heavyweight champion Dimitri Bivol about Canelo Alvarez wanting a rematch against him. It's okay for him that he wants revenge. Of course, the better way for me is to move forward, move up. We could talk about a rematch, but it's not interesting to me like it was before. And I mean, that's true. At the end of the day, one of the biggest fights in boxing to be made, but unfortunately, the powers that be in Bob Arum may keep the fight from happening, is Arthur Beterbiev and Dimitri Bivol. Now, granted, it looks like Arthur Beterbiev will be fighting Anthony Yard in January. That looks like it's going to happen. But, again, that fight, Bivol, Beterbiev, 2 undefeated fighters for all the marbles. It's hard to decide because On one, you have, again, I favor Bivol slightly due to the athleticism and due to uh, the boxing ability of Bivol. You know, I kind of favor him, right? Um, but then I look at the fact that Beterbiev can also switch hit. And he's used that effectively where he just will switch, bah, 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 get his stuff off, switch back, and then do that. And so that's why it's hard for me to decide. Now, what I want to say, and this may be unpopular with the Mexican fan base, of course, the IPFB fan base. I hate to say names, but the Lalo's boxing fan base. I hate to really use names, but my bias towards Russian, or I should say former USSR fighters and Cuban fighters, has to do with their skill set. Doesn't have to do with my family's past history in those places. It's skill set that separates them from Mexican fighters. And I hate to say it, and I said it in previous videos, until I see a Mexican fighter that has the skill set of like a David Morrell, that has the skill set of Israel Madrimov, that has the skill set of Beterbiev, that has the skill set of Joran Ennis, that has the skill set of like Bivol. Until I see that, I'm gonna rock with those guys. I'm gonna rock with them. And so, with that being said, you can't be mad when a certain school of boxing focuses on something and the other school of boxing does not focus on that thing. Okay? I can pull video up right now where you see Uzbeks and Cubans doing the same kind of drills and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Where you see Cubans in Uzbekistan, Uzbeks in Cuba doing the same thing. You don't see that exchange when it comes to these Mexican fighters, bro. Be it Mexican or Mexican American, bro. And so it is what it is, man. And, to remind y'all, this thing on my head is called a papaka. And it's what Khabib wears. And so, this girl who has shown interest in me from that area has gotten me one, and she also got me a black one, which is on the way. So you'll probably see me wear it in future videos. But I wear this, it's not a wig; it's actually a hat. I will continue to wear it in my videos. Maybe I'll do another video wearing something else, just to be original. But anyway, leave your thoughts, man. Let me know what y'all think about Bivol's words. Foolish signing out. I'm John Armour.